like how to align yourself with people's life stories, so that it's like code switching in many ways, right? And code switching is changing the way that you talk to someone, so that you can both be on as common of a ground as you can be.
I like it because from your answer, I see a lot of care from you and your genuine wish to connect with someone and willingness to use their language or as close as to their language as possible. And then I guess your resistance of those kind of very single-minded question was more like, you sensed some hostility or you sensed some kind of pushing away, so you'd rather just protect yourself by...
Yeah, exactly. If I sense that there's of course, you got to be careful about what you sense in terms of what you think someone's intention is versus what you fear their intention is. Because in the end, we may not know. I may be wrong. I may be just a little overprotective. But typically, if I sense that someone is trying to just put me in a box, right, and other me into a category like, okay, she's blah, blah, blah. She's from China, even though I would never say that I'm from China. Not for 30 years now, I wouldn't say that. And Chinese people are like this. Or the other thing which immediately makes me shut down is if someone hears, oh, you were born in China, but you grew up in Canada, and that whole born in Canada, grown up in Canada thing gets cut out, and they start to say, oh, well, I used to have a Chinese girlfriend. And these are the words that I learned to say in Chinese. And of course, the words are just completely inappropriate for any normal conversation. Or they'll say oh, I traveled to China, which is not as difficult because, it's cool you traveled to China. I don't know what that has to do with me, but but it's at least not just oh, okay, you're from China, so therefore I'm going to find some connection between you and this other Chinese woman that I dated. I try to get out of those conversations. I have to go to the bathroom, as soon as possible.
Wow. Well, they're also really trying hard to find subtopic.
Well, I wouldn't give the credit of trying hard because making, the connection between your origins, your ethnicity, and someone that you dated before is, it just feels very, very lazy to me, where you could talk about anything else. You could talk about living in the same city. You could talk about what are you doing in life. You could say, how has your day been going? And that would be more interesting and human than comparing, you to some other person that he's dated once. So
I agree, actually. Yeah. Because it's actually, it's in a way lazy or it's actually easy to put someone in the box and see this person from the box. But actually the person is in front of you, and you can get curious about so many things.
That's exactly it. Yeah. You have this living human being in front of you that you can ask so many questions of, or you can, if you're at a party, talk about the hosts, talk about how you know people here. Just normal conversation, whatever normal conversation is at a party, you can do that without making a reference to someone's ethnicity. But I do want to share another nuance that I learned recently when I was in Greece. So I was at a Vipassana meditation course in Greece, where I would say a good 50% of the people there were Greek. And at the end, a lot of people asked me that question, where are you from? And I went immediately into my normal way of answering, which is, I'm born in China or grew up in Canada, or I'm just Canadian. And people really insisted, in a very nice way. They really insisted. They were like, "No, you're not from Canada. Even if you were born in Canada, which I wasn't. Your parents were somewhere, and if they were born in Canada, then their parents were from somewhere. And at first I was like, this is really annoying. This is really insistently annoying. And then I talked to another younger Greek woman, and she said, let me explain why they do this, because it's not just to you that they do it. They do it to everybody. They do it to like a Greek person, you know, where you may live in Athens, but your family might be from like north of Greece or something, and they're just trying to trace your lineage to understand what has been the path of your entire family, so that we are now meeting each other here. It's not about putting you in a box. It's about understanding your history. And when she said that to me, I thought, you know, okay, I can appreciate that. That they're not just taking, you know, this snapshot of the present and only dealing with the present and not thinking about like, oh, what has this person lived through in order to get here? They were actually interested in like that whole story, because when I asked some people back, where are you from? They said, okay, so I was born here, but my parents moved here at this time. And then, you know, my grandparents are actually from, you know, Poland or something. So, you know, I felt like I softened up to that question after I spent time in Greece.
And I really love that nuance you just shared, because for me as well, like as I understood more of about family constellation. I don't know if you approach that as well. Like the more I understood how important your lineage and your basically ancestors are still influencing on you, and this is something you cannot neglect. So yeah, better embrace that at least internally, and then when you deal with other people, you can still choose your strategies of saying it. But yeah, the more resistance you have internally to your lineage, the more in pain you will be, I guess.
And how have you dealt with that? Questions of what is my ancestry? What is my lineage?
It's pretty sad, because during the war and the Cultural Revolution, I actually lost the whole family tree. Like my parents, they didn't know their grandparents, like their name or their... Yeah, so we don't know actually. So this is something I always feel sad about, like even thinking of that. I think it's deeper even than something intellectual, because I can feel the sadness there. But luckily not every Chinese family is in this situation. So many of them still have their like nice family booklet of all the names like that can trace back to many generations before. So, but for me, this loss or this sadness is exactly proving to me how important the ancestors are for me. So I got some of the connection from psychedelics and making me also, well, I haven't connected with the ancestors I don't know yet, but I connected definitely more with my grandparents, who I used to not have a very deep connection with. But then now I also feel more at home with at my hometown, which is just a little the countryside, a village in southwestern China. And then, yeah, I think with that kind of, I know where I'm from, that kind of background, and it feels really safe and feels really also in a way grounded, that I can there is a piece of land where I was born, and I can who that will catch me when I fall, something like that. So it's really, really deep.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like you belong to that place where you came into the world?
Partly, yes. Yeah. Not just partly. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm having some challenges, I sometimes even just think of my grandfather in this village, and he's sitting on a chair, like a bamboo chair. And even that that picture will soothe me so much. So I think I do have a lot of belonging there. And interestingly, the more I feel belonging there, the more comfortable I stay here, like here in Amsterdam. Like I know my background there, and I also feel belonging here, because belonging is not something like you can only have one. Now I totally realize. Like in Amsterdam, I have my community as well. And in China, online, I have my community. So I feel belonging in many places.
And this is fascinating, the idea of belonging not being relegated to only one sphere or maybe one physical place. Can you share a bit more about what that means, belonging to several different communities?
Yeah. Practically speaking, I think belonging to community means that you show up and you care for others and you receive care from other people and in a more regular or consistent way. So that's my very practical understanding of belonging. So I do show up in the circling community in Amsterdam and in China as well. So that, I think really consistency is key, like this idea of sustainability. And then you know that it's not just a one-time thing. You can always get, it really feels safe. Like, when you need someone, people will show up, that kind of safety. So that's part of the belonging. And another part is also, again, very deep down, like I feel belonging to this body and to myself and to where I live now, this space. And then with this belonging, I don't need to seek for recognition from outside or seek for a lot of reassurance from outside, which is still important, but it's never like the only source of belonging. So yeah, I really feel like when I'm more aligned with myself, I feel at home with myself. So then belonging for an external community also becomes easier. Many of the times I don't feel that's alignment, so I would struggle as well. Yeah.
Well, what it sounds like is that you, and this is a process that goes on for the rest of our lives, right? Belonging to communities and also belonging to oneself. But what it sounds like is when you felt like you were all right with yourself living in this body, this vehicle that carries our consciousness, it became easier to feel at ease in many different communities because your place of belonging is right here with you, every single moment. And it's not so much that the community is what gives you your identity. It's you who gives yourself your identity. And existing in different communities can also facilitate the expression of different aspects of your identity.
Yeah. I really like how you framed it. Because it's also like the more authentic you can be to yourself and the more natural you will be in one community, and different communities can entertain different parts of you that are all very true and very, natural and flowing. So that's my ideal sense of belonging. Yeah.
So now I want to ask you about your work in establishing your online community. So you have an online community called Octopus Awakening. And this is an online community for the Chinese community or the Chinese speaking community.
Yeah, mostly Chinese speaking community. Yes. The name Octopus Awakening came from there's a practice from Teal Swan. I don't know if you know her. She's a spiritual teacher. I don't agree with everything she says, but this practice of she called it octopus technique. It's really inspiring for me. So basically, it's a meditation practice where, so for example, both of us imagining ourselves to be an octopus leg. So one leg of an octopus, and then we actually were connected in the octopus head. So we share a lot of like human archetypes or the oneness, that's the so-called oneness. So we are connected there, but we are also individuals. So I really like this metaphor. It's like we're always talking about oneness, the capital ones, but we're also the smaller ones in each octopus leg. So this is also my ideal concept of community. It's where we have some common interest and common sentiments, but we also are individuals in this community, and we can express. Of course, we can agree to disagree, and yes, still we have this safety net together. So this is the idea.
Yeah, so it's like you're independent entities, but you're still operating with a connection to the collective.
Yeah. So this is something actually. Yeah, I want to add that for Chinese community is actually a word